Okay, now we're going to go over channel buoys or lateral buoys as they're written here, but you're probably more often going to hear them referred to as channel buoys. These are the most common type of buoy just because they need to be the most numerous. And they're also probably like the archetypical buoy you have in your mind when you think of like a navigation buoy, the red and the green ones. That's just the first things anyone thinks about. Like I said, they mark the entrance of a channel. So if you're coming in from sea and you're still a couple miles from land, but there's, for instance, maybe a dredged channel that the authorities want to keep you within, or just to do so just to direct traffic and keep things organized, they will set up a series of buoys, of channel buoys, to guide your path in towards wherever you need it to be, wherever you're headed. So you can see in this case, there's a channel right here with red and green buoys on either side of it. All you got to do is stay between the buoys and follow them where they lead you to go, and that will bring you wherever the primary destination is, wherever the port facility for that harbor is. Now, the rules for channel buoys here and here is obviously one side is always green and one side is always red. Now, which is which is an important thing you have to remember. You have to understand the rules of. And it is based on IALA. IALA. It is, I cannot think of the what the acronym stands for. International something Lighthouse Association. It's just the international association. I think it's affiliated with the IMO that that regulates the use of aids to navigation for the purposes of, keeping things standardized and understandable so that any mariner coming into any port can understand what buoys they're looking at and use them just as easily as a local could. There are two different regions within IALA A, just IALA Alpha and IALA Bravo. And the only difference between the two, 90% of the time they use the exact same rules, but the difference is just in which side of the channel is marked green versus red. So IALA Alpha is the majority of the world. It is basically, you can think of it as like the old world. It's Europe, Africa, 90% of Asia, and Australia, I believe. All of those parts of the world use IALA Alpha. And in those parts of the world, if you were to be entering from port, from sea, so if this is the coastline, and we have a port right here that you're headed to, there will be buoys here as you're headed down into the channel. In IALA Alpha, all of the buoys on your left side are red and all of the buoys on your right side are green. IALA Bravo is the system used by the Americas as well as Japan, Korea, the Philippines, and I think maybe Taiwan, possibly Taiwan. So you could think of it as the Americas and any countries that America had significant presence in East Asia, World War II and whatnot. They use IALA Bravo, and IALA Bravo just flips the two. So in IALA Bravo, if you were coming into port, you would see green buoys on the left and red buoys on the right. And because we're in America right now, this is the one that you're going to be focusing on 90% of the time. STCW testing will almost always assume you're in IALA Bravo for the purposes of the test. Now, you never want to take that for granted. If you have a test question that's asking you about buoys or about specifically lateral buoys, you want to make sure somewhere in that test question, it tells you like you are in this part of the world or you are in Ayala A versus Ayala B. Look for that and understand the difference between the two. So Ayala A is green, red, Ayala A is red, green, Ayala B is green, red. You want to be able to flip between these two easily. But I'm just going to say the majority of the time when you get a test question, you'll be using Ayala B. And out in your career, assuming you're an American mariner, the majority of places you go to will use Ayala B. Now, if you go overseas, that won't be true. You need to be prepared for both. But think of this almost as the primary and alpha as the secondary. Understand them both, but work with Ayala B. So within Ayala B, the best way to remember what is going to be on what side is with the, not even a mnemonic, but just the ditty, red, right, returning. Anytime you're returning from sea, coming into a port in Ayala B, the red buoys will be on your right. Now, obviously, when you're leaving, when you turn around and you come out the other way, the red buoys will be on your left. But buoyage systems are always defined off of coming in from the sea, just to make it simpler to understand. So in Ayala Bravo, we have red right returning. In Ayala Alpha, we would have green right returning. Though it's not as easy to remember, think of red right returning for Bravo. Now, as you can see, if I go back to the computer, there's a couple other characteristics associated with lateral buoys listed up here. First, you'll see their light characteristics, and there's a lot of different options. Basically, all you need to take away from this is the fact that the one thing channel buoys are not is they are not composite group flashing like these ones are. Don't worry about these yet. They can be flashing, they can be ice group flashing, they can be flashing, they can be occulting, quick flashing, isophase, doesn't matter. They can't be fixed, and they definitely can't be composite group flashing. What's more important to know, though, is that they're always the same color as the buoy themselves. So if you have a red lateral buoy, the light it flashes with will also be red. If you have a green one, the light will also be green. Now, additionally, the day boards, as you can see here, so if it's not a buoy, if it's actually fixed into the ground, they will have a certain shape depending on what side of the channel they're on. You can see in America, in Ayala Bravo, we've got square day boards for green buoys, so on the left side of the channel, and triangular day boards for red buoys on the right side of the channel. This also corresponds to the shape of the buoy itself. Sorry, I meant day boards for what I was speaking about a second ago. The shape of the day board corresponds to the shape of the buoys. So the two big types of buoys you'll see, there are multiple, but the ones that you always get taught about first are these buoys that look like a big pillar and these buoys that have a little indentation on them. This is called a can buoy because it looks like a soda can. This is called a nun buoy. I don't really know why. Like, it kind of looks like the Pope's hat, but the Pope isn't a nun, but it's still referred to as a nun. So if you see this, think of the Pope's hat, think of Catholicism, therefore nuns. So you've got can buoys and nun buoys. Because this is arguably more triangular, it corresponds to the triangular day board. Because this is square, corresponds to the square day board. Now you can also have them shaped like these tower buoys here, in which case they're basically identical. And honestly, these are the more common ones. These are the ones I've seen in my life more, but they can have this shape. So if you were somehow colorblind and you had still gotten through the licensing process without getting disqualified, you could still technically tell the difference just based off of the shapes of the buoys, assuming that they're can and nun, or off the shapes of the day shapes. Now, if you want to remember them, I mean, you could remember that like red looks like fire here because it's triangular, but there is also another acronym for that, and it includes both the shape and the numbering system, because didn't touch on it yet. As you can see, these day boards and these buoys are numbered on both sides. I don't know why the red day boards here aren't numbered. That's actually, I think, just a typo of the PDF, but these should also have numbers on them. And you can see the green day boards are always odd numbers, and the red day board, or green day boards and buoys, and the red day boards and buoys are always even numbers. Trust me that these two should be even numbers as well. Now, it's kind of hard to remember all at once that red buoys are the right side of the channel, they're triangular, they're nuns, and they're even numbers, and green buoys are the left side of the channel, they're cans, they're square, they're odd numbers. And then also remember that some of this, but not all of this, changes when you go from Bravo to Alpha. Like the colors swap, but the shapes, I believe, don't swap, and the numbers don't swap. The way you could remember it more consistently, though, if you're getting overwhelmed by all those different rules, is, like I said, the other acronym. It is Go Resort. And what this stands for is GO means green odd. RE means red even. And SO means some odd. RT doesn't mean anything. It's just to help you remember Go Resort. So this means that any green buoy, if it is green, it has an odd number. Any red buoy, or I guess that's wrong from what I said earlier was wrong, but this is correct. Any red buoy is always even. So even if you go to Ayala A and the colors swap, the numbers will also swap, because red has to follow the even numbers and green has to follow the odd numbers. Then what some odd means is if you take the shape of the day board for either, and you count the number of vertices, or I guess the number of sides, whichever one you can think of better. A square is going to have 4, and a triangle is going to have 3. If you add that number to the number listed on the day board, let's say 4 here and 3 here, they will always add up to even. No matter what, they're always even. Sorry, oh my God. They're always odd. So you can see 4 plus 3, 7, it's odd. 3 plus 4, 7, odd. If this was 1 and this was 2, you would have 2 plus 3, 5, and 1 plus 4, 5. I don't know why I keep choosing numbers like that. But this will always be even, this will always be odd. They don't need to add up to the same number. If this was 7 and that was 2, then this would be 7 plus 4 equals 11. All that matters is that if you add the number plus the number of corners, it will be odd no matter what type of buoy it is. Just to help you maintain an understanding of what sides you're looking at based off of the shape, the number, the color, whatever it may be. Most important thing, just remember red right returning and what the buoy is actually doing. The buoy is guiding you through a channel into harbor. And if you're leaving harbor, you flip the rule over, green, so I guess green right departing.